the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
General Manager Ryan Poles stayed very busy this morning as he continues to make moves ahead of free agency to the Chicago Bears roster. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, Ryan Poles is at it again, making a couple of moves to the Chicago Bears roster, adding one new player and keeping one of his own for next season on this Bears roster. First and foremost, I noticed it was reported yesterday that the Bears had a lot of interest in this player, but they have officially signed tight end Durham Smythe to a one-year deal, currently of the Miami Dolphins. Smythe actually overlapped with Ben Johnson during his rookie season in 2018, where Johnson's NFL coaching career started with the Miami Dolphins. Smythe hasn't really had a productive career in terms of his receiving ability. In 7 seasons, he has totaled 132 receptions for 1,228 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Smythe is definitely known as a very strong blocker, and that's where he's really going to contribute to the Chicago Bears offense, not only being a reliable run blocker, but also really good in pass protection as well. But his bread and butter is definitely being a strong and physical blocker in the run game. And once again, we all understand what Ben Johnson is trying to do here in Chicago, and that is run the football. So I don't want Bears fans to get too flustered over this move of adding Smythe. That means it's probably going to be the end of the Marcellus Lewis era. I think this is an upgrade compared to a guy like Marcellus Lewis, but this is not going to be a guy that's going to come in and overtake Cole Kmet snaps. Cole Kmet is still going to be the tight end one here in Chicago, but this is a very good depth move on this roster. The Bears had a need at tight end. They can still invest in NFL draft as well, but Durham Smythe, with his familiarity with Ben Johnson, it makes all the sense in the world that Ben Johnson, one of the guys that he is used to, coming in here, adding a very valuable piece to this offense, and that is blocking, because tight ends and receivers are just as important in helping in the run blocking and pass protection, just as the offensive line is, right? So I think it's a huge move in terms of adding a reliable blocking tight end, that guy that's physical behind Cole Kmet, but obviously the numbers in 7 years haven't been great. But I think it's a very good depth move for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles also stayed busy by keeping one of his own, and this is a well-deserved contract. This definitely got me pumped up when I saw this pop up on social media. The Bears have agreed to a 2-year deal worth $6 million with defensive back and special teams ace Josh Blackwell, which makes him one of the highest paid special teamers in the National Football League. Bears fans, I am so happy for Josh Blackwell. He has worked so hard to get to this moment. He has been a key part of the Bears special teams over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, a key highlight last year for Josh Blackwell is when he returned that trick punt return in a huge win over the Green Bay Packers in the final game last season. This is a well-deserved contract. Special teams is just as important as the offense, as the defense side of the football in the National Football League, and he has been a huge component. So this is a big move for Ryan Poles and the Bears. I understand that a lot of people don't get excited about special teams moves, but he is now the Chicago Bears special teams ace, and Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears awarded him with a very big contract. So, Bears fans, before I let you guys go, I also wanted to share with something that I saw on social media of basically some targets going into free agency next Monday. Obviously, the Chicago Bears have been very busy adding to their roster. Ryan Poles and the Bears moved so far this offseason they have traded a 6th-round pick for guard Jonah Jackson to the Los Angeles Rams, traded a 2026 4th-round pick for guard Joe Thuney to the Kansas City Chiefs, signed tight end Durham Smythe to a 1-year deal, and honestly giving Josh Blackwell that 2-year deal worth $6 million. So a lot of moves prior to free agency, but the job is not done. But according to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Bears have their eyes set on a couple of different players. One obviously being Drew Dahlman, the center currently of the Atlanta Falcons. The Chicago Bears have done a very good job of adding to their interior so far by adding Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. But they are still needing an upgrade at the center position, and it seems that Drew Dahlman is going to be the target for the Chicago Bears, according to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune. Obviously, Drew Dahlman right now is probably looking at a $13 to $15 million per year, which to me, he is a top 4 center in the National Football League. He would be a huge upgrade for this Bears offensive line. And obviously, when you add him to the guys that we've already added on this offensive line this offseason, and Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, you're looking at a much improved interior of this offensive line for the Chicago Bears to help protect Caleb Williams here in Chicago. So I expect them to go hard after Drew Dahlman. If they can't land Drew Dahlman, Evan Brown, a guy that has familiarity with Ben Johnson dating back to their time with the Detroit Lions, could also be an option. He's very versatile, and he would cost much less, and I think he would also be a upgrade to this Bears offensive line. Some other names that Brad Biggs says the Bears are interested in heading into free agency on Monday is obviously Milton Williams, defensive tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles, also edge rusher Josh Sweat of the Philadelphia Eagles, and then of course Khalil Mack, which there's already been some interest there from Khalil Mack and his team, and of course with the Chicago Bears. I think it just depends on money. We've talked a lot about Khalil Mack, but Josh Sweat and Milton Williams are also very, very good players in their own right. I think I'd be fine with those guys as well, especially Milton Williams. He had a very big year last year for the Philadelphia Eagles, really being a part of that dominating Eagles defensive line. Obviously, you add a guy like Milton Williams to, Javon Dexter and Montez Sweat, and probably still trying to add an edge rusher as well. I think that would be a huge upgrade for the Bears defensive line. In my personal opinion, I think Khalil Mack is going to be a Chicago Bear by next week. It just depends on what he wants in terms of money. I think the Bears are going to go really hard at either Khalil Mack or Josh Sweat to really add a running mate with Montez Sweat. And then when you go into the NFL draft, you still have those 4 picks in the top 41 picks. So they still have a whole lot of draft capital. You can still invest in offensive line, in the defensive line, and still add a running back with DeAndre Swift. So I think the Chicago Bears have had a good start to their offseason. The job is not finished, but it feels good that Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears are finally putting a whole lot of focus on the defensive line. And that's going to be their main focus going into next week as free agency begins for the National Football League. So, Bears fans, before I let you guys go, let me ask you guys this. How do you guys feel about the moves that Ryan Poles and the Bears have made so far? Let me know down below in the comment section. But as always, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you guys follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic.